Welcome to Mondays with Coach Rice. It's a brand new week, the sun's shining bright. A chance to cast your net, step into the light. Life's full of challenges, it's a winding stream. But with Coach Rice, you'll find your dream.
Good morning, happy Monday, and welcome to Casting the Net, where we care about your mental health and well-being. I am so excited to have my guest. She is a holistic ADHD coach. So excited to have her, Jessica. Excited to delve into the conversation because ADHD is so prevalent in the world, and I've never interviewed an ADHD coach, this is going to be awesome. So Jessica, tell us where you're from.
I am in Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia. Okay. And how did you come upon this journey in coaching?
Great question. And thank you, by the way, for having me here. It's a pleasure to talk with you and your listeners. I sometimes tell people that I didn't choose this coaching journey. It sort of chose me, because when my son was 7, he was about second grade at the time, he was diagnosed with ADHD. And so I'm kind of a researcher, a natural learner by nature. So I jumped into all the research I could find, all the literature and science journals and so on, trying to understand him and how his mind worked, how to support him. So really quickly, I realized a number of different things. The first was how familiar it all sounded, and that's what led to my own ADHD diagnosis about a year later. The second is that I was looking at all of it through sort of a physical fitness, body-mind connection lens, probably because of my background in dance. That was my first career, my college degrees in dance. And then the third thing I realized is how much shame and stigma there is associated with ADHD. What I discovered is that body-mind connection really is key and critical to dissolving the shame and the stigma, because they're always connected. In fact, inside the brain, the neural networks that govern dopamine, which is the neurotransmitter implicated in ADHD, and the neural networks that govern movement are actually directly connected. So if we move our body, we move our mind, and vice versa. So I began to think, I can do this backwards. Everybody else is going about this brain first to get the body cooperating, and I'm going to do it the other way. I'm going to get the body moving first to move the mind. And so I started doing experiments with myself and my son and my other child who also has ADHD, and found a ton of stuff that worked, a ton of stuff that didn't work. I started telling my friends and sharing a little bit about the things that did work for us. And they would come back and tell me, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. This actually worked for me. It helped my kid concentrate on homework. It helped my child sit still for a lesson in school. It helped me as an adult focus on work that I didn't want to do. So long story short, it was a little over 10 years ago. I've been coaching officially for 10 years now, and have had the pleasure of helping so many people figure out that their brains are not broken. In fact, they're not deficient or defective or have a disorder at all. They're actually hyper-connected. And when we can learn to work with it instead of against it, it changes the whole wide world.
So hyper-connected. So movement was the biggest component that helped with you and your family to help stabilize your level of focus. This is what you're saying.
At first, correct. Yeah. Okay. It was kind of the spark that started everything. And as I got deeper into the learning and the teaching, I added another 3 elements to the movement. So there's the 4-point framework that I work with now is movement first, Then nutrition, because there are ways to eat to support our brains. Has nothing to do with weight loss, believe me, but everything to do with supporting those neural networks. Then metacognition and mindfulness is the third pillar.
Mhm.
And then finally, systems, habits, and tools. And those are the things that we have thought about all along as leading to executive function. So those are like the planners and the reminders and the apps and timers and so on. So
So
it's really a
you,
four-part, but movement is the beginning.
oh, okay. So, because I've heard of nutrition being such an important component when it comes to ADHD.
Yeah.
How did you find out about the nutrition portion? Like, what did you hire a nutritionist? What did you do to get that part?
I had been a certified health coach for a long time, and that includes an element of healthy, standard, proper eating. And so I just sort of took a tangent from that and started researching more about eating specifically for brain health and central nervous system health and regulation, and found that there are some fairly simple things, some simple concepts and guidelines we could all follow to enhance how all brains work, whether they have ADHD or not. Prime example is making sure that you have a little bit of protein, at least a little, at every meal and snack, because protein is a building block of neurotransmitters. So when we get enough of that, and B
Yes.
vitamins and everything else, then our bodies have what it needs to make the neurotransmitters that we need to do the things we want to do properly.
Yes. Awesome. So, who are your ideal clients? Like, is it children, adults?
My clients now are all adult women, so 18 and over. Most of them tend to be 30 and over, but I do work with 18 and up. And many are late diagnosed, so they didn't find out until later in life that they have ADHD, but a few have known since childhood. No matter who they are, no matter what age or when they found out they have ADHD, they have this internal sense that they're not living up to what they want. They feel like they could be overachievers, but they're underperforming in a way. And
Mhm.
so what I do is try to help them even that out so that they're bringing the energy they want to the things that they want to do and living the fullest life that they can.
That's awesome. Because I'm sure they feel uh, extremely distracted.
Yes, yes. And ADHD is a really tricky thing. It's a very dynamic difference, meaning it's different from person to person for sure, but it's also different within the same person over time or depending on external circumstances, depending on internal circumstances, such as whether we've had a little bit to eat that day or whether we forgot to eat lunch. So it's a really tricky thing, and it makes us doubt ourselves because there are times when we're running on all cylinders, everything is going great, we're super productive, we're able to bring all of our skills, we bring our A game to the table. So we know we can do it, but then there are other times when the stars are not aligned and we don't have all of those super conditions met, and we can't rely on our skills and our capabilities to show up when we need them. That creates self-doubt because it feels like, well, sometimes I can do this thing and then other times I can't. So what in the world is wrong here? It can be very tricky and very frustrating sometimes. And
And
that's
I'm sure. And sleep has a lot to do with it as well, right?
absolutely. Sleep is both critical to helping ADHD and performing well with it, and it's impacted by ADHD. So we tend to have later sleep cycle. We're night owls. We don't really fully wake up until about 10 or 11 in the morning.
Okay.
Um, and if we get to sleep and wake up in the night, it's harder for us to get back to sleep because our brains start going right away and take us down all kinds of interesting paths when really we need to be We need to be sleeping.
And I'm sure there is quite a few people who has it and not know. I mean, that's undiagnosed.
Yes. Yeah.
And what have you found? Have you found any clients coming to you undiagnosed, but kind of have an inkling that they have it?
All the time. In fact, I came up with my own sort of unscientific self-assessment, which I'll be happy to share with you and your listeners if you'd like.
Absolutely.
Really just a quiz, a self-assessment to see what resonates. And it covers some of the lesser known traits and some of the, excuse me, ADHD traits that are specific to women. So it's a way of building up a list of talking points to then take to a qualified diagnostician to see if you have ADHD or not. But the good news is the work that I do is really, it's good for all brains. If you have ADHD,
Right.
it may be especially necessary, but it's going to be helpful to anybody who struggles with working memory or impulse control or emotional regulation or focus and distraction. So,
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. And so, what is your onboarding process?
well, I like to keep it super simple because of the folks that I work with. The format of my coaching now is hybrid group coaching, which means that folks who join me for coaching always have at least one individual coaching session per month. It's just me and them laser focused on what they want to do. And then there are another 3 group coaching opportunities throughout the month. So the onboarding really consists of having one of those meetings to dive deeper into where they are now versus where they want to be, and formulating kind of a roadmap to get us there. And then it's just really the logistics of giving them access to the content library and the community of peers that they will enjoy in the Strength Hub. And from that, it's off to the races. We're kind of
Okay.
ADHD people tend to be pretty quick to get started on some things. So I like to make the onboarding super simple and fast.
Right. Because their brain is wired like that, right?
Yeah.
In a sense of like hurriness.
Oh, that's right.
And so, how do you think ADHD affect relationships?
Well, I'll tell you, because ADHD is a challenge within the executive functioning system. Executive functioning governs everything. Everything we try to do in life requires some element, some aspect of self-regulation and self-monitoring. And that includes having relationships. So depending on the kind of relationship, depending on the phase and season of life, it can show up in any number of ways. So some examples. If you are at work, one thing that might come into play is, distraction. That's an easy one to pick on. Yes. So you and a coworker might be talking about something really important and relevant to work. If you're the person with ADHD, you might find your mind wandering a little bit and straying away from the conversation that really you need to be paying very strict and close attention to. That person ends up feeling maybe a little bit dismissed, a little ignored, maybe feels like you're not exactly there with them in the conversation. And then who knows where that can lead? It could be very minor, and your coworker may say to you, "Hey, are you listening to me?" And it's solved as simple as that. Or maybe that coworker is your boss who starts questioning your commitment to the job, who then starts thinking, is this the right person for the job? And maybe it goes dexterous path. In romantic relationships, I see the biggest thing I see in romantic relationships is the issue of rejection sensitivity, which means that when we have ADHD, we are extra sensitive to even the perception of being dismissed, abandoned, rejected, excluded, and the sense that other people might be disappointed in us. So we have a super sensitive radar for it. And when we feel that or when we perceive it, it affects us more deeply. There
Okay.
have actually been brain studies that show the pain centers light up in the brain more for us than they do for the average person when we're feeling like we're excluded or pushed away. And so partners of people with ADHD have to understand that and know how to work with that in a way that makes their ADHD partner feel included, safe, supported, so that they can be closer. Otherwise, it's just going to drive them apart.
Wow. So I noticed that they differentiate,
Mm.
you know, children with ADHD and adults with ADHD. Is there a difference in how they manage that, or a difference in the level of um, the way they function?
Mm.
Is it such a difference that they have to differentiate
Mm-hmm.
child from adult?
It's a really interesting question. And I think it's one that's not so simple to answer. What we do know is that aside from the rare case of ADHD that is brought on by something like a traumatic brain injury, ADHD is with us from birth all the way through life. It's a lifelong difference and condition. Now, that said, the person changes over the lifespan, and the demands on a person change from, let's say, second grade to second decade in a career. Very, very different stations in life. So does the ADHD change? Yeah, it probably changes in some ways, but more in response to what we're being asked to do and physiological changes that happen over that span of time, like hormonal shifts, especially for those of us in women in midlife,
Menopause.
who finding menopausal and perimenopausal changes. So yeah, I think it's worth differentiating child versus adult in as much as it informs the conversation about how to work with ADHD. But it's the same thing. It's the same condition, just showing up differently and getting approached differently.
Because you were diagnosed with ADHD, correct? And so,
but not until my mid-40s.
Not until your mid-40s. How did you know that this was something you needed to look into?
It was when I started reading about ADHD in general. I never really had thought about it before my son was diagnosed. And so as I started reading about traits and qualities and struggles and challenges, I thought, oh, this is really explaining everything that I've lived through for the past 40 something years. And so for me, diagnosis was a huge relief, because up until that point, I had thought of myself as being simply disorganized, scattered, not that smart, a little lazy, maybe unmotivated. Once I figured out, with my doctor's help, that it was ADHD, I realized, all right, well, there's a reason for all these things that I have felt. And the reason has nothing to do with a character flaw like being lazy. It has to do with different brain wiring. And once I realized that, it gave me a whole new way to look at this and begin to work with my brain instead of against it.
Okay. Do you see the difference in before and after you discovered it?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. Feels like a different world.
And so you like, wow, this is a new norm for me, but it's actually a relief.
Huge relief. Yes.
Wow. That's I often wonder if, did you see the difference? And, as far as like before and after, and thanks for explaining how you found out, because sometimes we don't look into things that we don't look into the reasons why things are happening to us that we don't often pay attention to, or we pay attention to it and think it's normal.
That's right.
And you're like, wait a minute, it's not normal for me to, be this distracted at this level. It's not normal for me to not be able to sleep. It's not normal for me to, be so distracted I'm not paying attention to the person's talking to me because so many things are coming at you at one time.
Right. Because you don't have anything to compare it to unless you are talking to other people or reading something that tells you that there are other ways of being. Yeah. And I think it's important to note there that a lot of times there are cultural and generational differences. When I was a kid in the 70s and 80s, ADHD just wasn't talked about as much. And since all of the research until the mid 1980s, maybe late 80s, had been done on young boys, or maybe men, definitely nobody was thinking it in terms of girls. So there's a little bit of a time warp, a generational gap there. And then there are some cultural differences as well that keep people from recognizing there are different styles of brains. Some cultures just do not talk about it, don't recognize it. And that can be unfortunate for people who are struggling, I think. And it's important to open up that conversation.
Absolutely. I agree. I totally agree. What advice, one piece of advice you would like to leave with the audience?
Oh, wow. Only one?
Only one. I know you have a lot.
Yeah. Well, if I had to narrow it down to one, I would say this. I want everybody to know that every single person, young or old, male, female, doesn't matter. Every single person does well when they can. Nobody in the whole wide world wakes up in the morning and goes, hey, I think today is the day I want to disappoint everybody that's important to me and let myself down in the process. It doesn't happen. People do well
Right.
when they can. And when they can't, all that means is there's a missing skill or a missing piece of information. And so when we can fill in those skills and fill in that information, all of a sudden, folks can do well and bring their best to the table. And I add on, like, this is 1A, my top and a half piece of advice, which is to understand that every single brain is different. None are better or worse than the others. We need all different types of brains working in teams, balancing it out and bringing their best to the table so that we can live the best and fullest life available to us.
Amen. I like that. I like that advice. That's some great advice to leave with the audience. That's awesome because you are definitely correct. The uniqueness of us is so important than anything. And
Yes.
the brain is so complicated. It would never work the same in everybody. And so that's the beauty of us being able to have platforms like this to be able to let people know that you're not alone, number one. And number two, you're fearfully and wonderfully made. And there's nothing wrong with, the way your brain functions. You just got to figure out how to utilize the resources. We have to manage our health in a way that we can show up as our best selves, basically. So,
100%.
Jessica, I forgot to tell them your last name is Covington.
Yes.
So, Jessica Covington. That's my fault. I got so excited about the interview, forgot to tell them your last name. That's important because if you really thought this interview was helpful and want to share with other people, Jessica is a holistic ADHD coach, and she will be so happy to help you out. She has the passion, she has the heart, and she has the experience that you need to seek her services. So I would definitely say reach out to her, share this video if you know someone who's struggling within the area of ADHD or that think they have ADHD and don't know, or even if they struggling with, distractions or how they concerned about how they brain function, just reach out to her. She would be an awesome resource to help you walking that journey, because we all need help in the journey that we on. We cannot suffer alone. We don't want to suffer in silence, and we don't want to walk through a journey alone. You no need to be isolated. So I just want to thank you, Jessica, for coming on today and sharing your expertise and your heart with us, because that's truly important to the audience, because a lot of people want to go and get the help they need, but they don't know who to go to and how. And that's what this platform is made for. So to the audience, if you like it, please subscribe and share, and definitely, subscribe so you can get the notifications, because I'm always interviewing amazing people that come on, like Jessica. And so, Jessica, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Martha.
Gracing us with your presence. And if someone want to reach out to you, how can they do that? Even though I will put the links in the comments as well.
Sure. Yeah, the easiest is my website, fitology.com. So that's FIT-OLOGY.com. And everything they need is on there. And I want to thank you, Martha, for the opportunity to be here and for casting the net so widely so we can include all those good differences.
Yes, that's exactly what we want to do. So I just want to say thank you for listening, and we are signing off.
We'll heal every heart, so join us now. Let's make life suffice. Welcome to Mondays with Coach Rice.